Welcome back. This is the Worch Show, episode -6. So I've been recording this podcast for about 3 weeks, trying to bang out as many repetitions as I can do to get better at this, all the logistics, the lighting, the setup, trying to figure this whole thing out. I wanted to tell you a story today. I went to a buddy of mine house this weekend. He's actually he's my neighbor of one of the businesses that I own, the coffee shop. He has a business next door. He's a meat butcher, so he has a very successful meat market. He opened his doors about 2 months before I opened the doors to the coffee shop, which I opened up about a week ago. And he invited me over to his house, and he said, "Hey, come on over. I'm gonna have a few buddies over at my house. We're just gonna smoke a bunch of cigars. We're gonna hang out. It'll be a good time." I was like, "Sure thing." I'm not drinking anymore. I stopped drinking last year, November 23rd, 2023. I called it quits on boozing, but I love to have a good cigar. So I'm like, great, I'm in. I'm totally down to do it. So it was on a Saturday night, and I drive over to his place in Boca Raton, Florida. I pull up, and he said he was going to have a few friends over with the driver. It was packed. And there was a lot of cars outside, parked in the road as well. So I go in there. He had left the door cracked open. He had sent me a text and said, "Come on in when you get there." I went, before I got there, I stopped and grabbed a few cigars at my favorite cigar lounge and grabbed a bottle of sparkling water and a few limes for myself. So I get there, and I'm walking in this house, and everyone's out on the patio, and you can see everyone out on the patio. There's like 10 or 12 different guys there. They're smoking cigars. They're talking, they're hanging out. One guy's grilling out, and I immediately feel like out of place. I immediately feel kind of like, man, I don't belong here. I feel nervous. I'm getting some anxiety. I only know my buddy. I don't know anyone else who's at his house. So, and you know how you go to a party or you go to a friend's house and there's new people there, and you're kind of sizing people up, and you can feel people sizing you up and seeing what is this guy about. I started to get that feeling. It wasn't any like bad or negative vibes, just the initial sizing people up. So I'm walking in there. I get this from the Latin tradition of every time I walk into a place, a party or a friend's gathering, I always walk around and I always shake the hand of every man there, and you always greet the woman and do the kiss on the cheek. In this case, there was just all guys. So I walk around, I introduce myself to every single guy in there. I shake their hand. "How you doing?" And then I kind of post up next to my buddy, and we start talking. But I'm just feeling like super uncomfortable, super out of place, just shy, completely introverted. I'm like, man, maybe this was a bad idea. I needed a night out to hang out with guy friends, but I don't know anyone here. I'm really nervous. I mean, have you ever had that? Have you ever been to a party or a gathering where you're just like, maybe I should go. I'm going to sneak out. I'm not going to say goodbye to anyone. That's exactly what I was feeling this night. After like 10 minutes, I was like, you know what? I'm going to say goodbye to him. Hey, I got to get home, and make some excuse that I need to get out of there. So a few more minutes pass by. I'm done talking with my friend, and I'm like, all right, I need to venture out. And I slowly start talking to a few other guys. I kind of hop in the conversation. Things start to warm up a little bit. And then, you talk to one guy, and then conversation dries out, and then you go talk to a new person and kind of hang out and get to know people as you go, right? And that's how it happens. You're smoking cigars, and everyone's super chill. And as the time went on, I realized like everyone's just hanging out. No one's trying to outdo each other. No one's trying to impress each other. So I realized I went in there with this insecurity. Quite frankly, like I went in there like a feeling like I'm not enough. Like I'm inadequate. All these guys are better than me. They're doing better than me in life. They have something better than I do, and I feel less than them. Like instantly, that was my reaction. I felt less than these guys, and I don't even know these guys. And even if I did know these guys, I should never be comparing myself to someone else, comparing myself to their life. I should just compare myself to who I was yesterday and keep moving forward. So anyways, but I felt inadequate. I didn't feel enough for whatever reason. And then slowly I start to warm up, and I realize these are amazing guys. There are a bunch of other business owners, well-known people around the community. It was actually a really great opportunity. Met a couple of attorneys there, accountants, other business owners, one guy that had a tech startup. And we were just talking, just a bunch of guys smoking cigars, hanging out. And I really, that's when I started to think, I went in here with, I guess, expectations. I went into this party, this gathering, feeling like, what am I going to get out of this, right? What am I going to get out of this? I'm feeling inadequate. I don't feel like I'm enough to be here. I feel like these guys are better than me. But what am I going to get out of this? Why am I here? And I realized I had the wrong mentality from the get-go. Instead, the way I should have been thinking is, what can I provide to this? There's a group of people here. What's the value that I can give? How can I give to these people? And when I leave here, these people are better off. These guys are better off that they met me. What can I say to them? How can I encourage them? Anything they're working on with their businesses. And it was great because one guy, there was a French chef there, and he was talking about how he had a restaurant in California. And he was basically saying everything that he did wrong. He has since closed the restaurant. He had it open for about 2 or 3 years. And he was just giving me all this information, talking about his restaurant, how he was the dishwasher, he was the hostess, he was the manager, he was doing the payroll, he was the only server on. Him and his wife had opened this up, and they were running out of money. It was happening during the COVID pandemic. And he was telling me this whole story. And at the end of the story, he concluded, the only thing you need when you're opening a restaurant, the most important thing is money. Money. If people don't, it doesn't matter how good your product is. It doesn't matter how good you think you are. If you don't have money to bankroll this idea, if you don't have money to pay for rent, to pay for staff, to pay for the build out, to pay for the marketing so people know about it, your idea doesn't matter. Money is the most important thing when you're first starting off for a restaurant. Anyway, so I was able to talk to him, and I learned some things, and I met a few other guys, and they provided value to me. And I was able to, hopefully, I feel, provide value to some of the other guys that were there. So the point of the story was, whenever you're feeling nervous, whenever you're going to a party or a networking event, don't think about what you can get out of this interaction. Think about what you can give. How can you help somebody? Ask them questions. Be interested. Listen to what they're saying, and be interested. So then I started to think, oh my gosh, so for those of you who don't know me, I'm very, I wouldn't say I'm religious. I'm a Christian though. Jesus Christ is my savior. I'm a follower of his teachings, and there's a lot of wisdom and knowledge that I'm able to gain through the Bible. And it made me think of lots of stories about Christ and the type of leader that he was. And he was always someone that wherever he went, people would follow him around. Women and people would touch his robe and they would get healed. He was someone that came here that provided tremendous value to others. And his life as an example was not a life of consumption and what can people do for me. I mean, he came here to ultimately sacrifice his life, and he came here to give. He came here to provide value. And because he took that approach and he came here to provide value, he always had a following. He had his disciples. He had people follow him around. When people would hear that he would come in town, people would show up, and they would watch him ride into town, and they would come to him to get healed. He was the ultimate giver, and he provided value. And because he provided so much value and he focused on providing value, he was needed and he was wanted by a lot of people. So just taking Christ's his example, the way he lived his life, and apply it to yourself, and I was apply it to myself in my business life, is that it's more important, it's more valuable to be somebody that can give, that can provide resources, that can provide context, that can provide a product or a service, but you have a mentality of, what can I give? How can I provide? And I think it's better to lead that way. No, it is better to lead that way than to think, man, just a consumer, like, what can I get? What can I get out of this? What am I going to get out of this? Who's gonna provide something to me? Who's going to give to me? So the lesson there was, I'm going to live my life more like the way Christ did, in terms of providing value to others, and let that lead me. And in that, I'll be more valuable to people, and I'll be wanted and more needed to other people in terms as a person, my goods, services, anything I has to provide. And so going into that night, I realized, meeting all these new people, had I taken that frame, that mentality of, how what am I trying to say? Had I taken that frame or that mentality of giving instead of taking, that little shift in my frame and my overall thinking, I would have been way better off in there. I would have been way more equipped, and I definitely would have, I feel like I would have been less anxious because I would have went there with a purpose. And that's another thing. When you focus on giving to others, you take your personal attention, you take the attention off of you, because it's not about you. It's about other people, and you put the attention on them. So if you're somebody who's introverted or gets anxiety when you're around a lot of people, then take the attention off of you and think about the other person and how you can give to them and ask them questions and be interested in what they have to say. That was something that I was able to learn, and I wanted to share that with you guys. Thanks for watching The Mark Worch Show. This is episode -6. See you next time.